My daughter called me crying over a rejected college deposit. Mom, it says insufficient funds. That account had $41,000. At the bank, the manager wouldn't meet my eyes. Then he slid me a form with my husband's signature and mine. So I went home and waited. I remember the sound of Hannah's voice more clearly than anything else from that day. Not just crying. Panicked. Like the ground had disappeared under her, and she was reaching for the only person who might catch her. She had been trying to pay her enrollment and housing deposit for the university she had dreamed about for years. She earned that place. Nobody handed it to her. She studied through headaches, missed parties, picked up extra shifts at a small weekend job, worked on essays until midnight, and still somehow smiled whenever she talked about leaving for college. That account was supposed to be the one thing she never had to worry about. It wasn't rich family money. It wasn't some endless trust fund. It was $41,000 built slowly, year after year, birthday check after birthday check, tax refund after tax refund, every little extra bit I could put away without making the rest of our life fall apart. It was supposed to tell my daughter, you worked hard. Now go start your life. Instead, when she tried to pay the deposit, the payment declined. I was at work when it happened. I didn't even tell anyone I was leaving. I grabbed my purse, walked out to my car, and drove straight to the bank with my hands shaking on the steering wheel. The whole way there, I kept telling myself it had to be a mistake. Maybe the university portal had glitched. Maybe the bank flagged the payment because it was out of state. Maybe the account was temporarily locked. Anything made more sense than what I was about to find out. When I walked into the bank, Thomas, the branch manager, recognized me immediately. He had helped us with that account more than once. He knew it was for Hannah. He knew how long we had been saving. The second he saw my face, his smile faded. Jennifer, he asked. What happened? I told him the account was showing almost nothing. I told him Hannah's payment had been declined. I told him the balance should have been over $41,000. He brought me into his office. I sat across from him while he typed on his computer. Every click made my stomach tighten. Then he stopped typing and looked at the screen for too long. He didn't look at me. That was when I knew. He pulled a document from the printer, held it for a moment, then placed it on the desk between us. The account was closed out 12 days ago, he said carefully. No, I said. That account requires both signatures for a full withdrawal. I understand. I didn't sign anything. His face changed. Not shock. Not surprise. Pity. He turned the paper toward me. I saw my husband's signature first. Michael. Bold. Confident. Slanted exactly the way he always signed his name. Then I saw mine beside it. My name, written in neat cursive. For a second, my mind tried to reject what my eyes were seeing. It looked like my signature if someone had studied it just long enough to copy the shape, but not long enough to understand the small flaws that made it mine. The loop was wrong. The pressure was wrong. The final letter was too clean. I whispered, that's not mine. Thomas looked like he wanted to say something comforting, but there was nothing comforting to say. My husband had walked into that bank, sat across from people who knew our family, and signed my name to empty our daughter's college fund. Not our vacation account. Not some shared shopping account. Our daughter's future. Thomas told me he could give me a copy of the document. He told me I had options. He also told me, very carefully, that I should speak with an attorney before making decisions. I barely heard him. I kept staring at that signature. Mine, but not mine. I thought about Michael sitting there, calm enough to forge it. Calm enough to look normal. Calm enough to leave the bank with the money and come home afterward like nothing had happened. I walked out with the paper folded inside my purse. When I got to my car, I didn't start the engine. I just sat there in the parking lot. The heat pressed against the windshield, but I felt cold all the way through. I checked my phone. No message from Michael. No missed call. No confession. No apology. For 12 days, he had watched Hannah talk about orientation, housing, roommate forms, meal plans, and textbooks. For 12 days, he had sat at dinner while she talked about her future, knowing he had already taken the money meant to help her reach it. That was the part that made me feel sick. Not just the theft. The performance. When I finally drove home, I didn't call him. I didn't text him. I didn't warn him. I placed the bank document on the kitchen island, sat in the dark, and waited for my husband to walk through the door. Michael came home just after 7. I heard the garage door open, then his car door shut, then his footsteps in the hallway. Everything sounded too normal. His keys hit the counter. His bag dropped by the entryway. He walked into the kitchen and stopped when he saw me sitting there without the lights on. "Why is it so dark in here?" he asked. I didn't answer. He reached for the switch. The kitchen flooded with light, and for 1 second, he looked annoyed. Like I had interrupted the calm end to his day. Then he saw the paper on the island. His eyes moved to it. His face barely changed, but I knew him too well. I saw the flicker. The tiny pause. The way his jaw locked before he picked it up. He read the document without saying anything. Then he set it down. I waited for denial. I waited for panic. I waited for anything that sounded like a husband realizing he had destroyed his family. Instead, he sighed. That sigh told me more than any confession could have. "You went to the bank," he said. My throat tightened. "You forged my signature." He rubbed his forehead like I was giving him a headache. "Jennifer, lower your voice." That almost made me laugh. My daughter's college fund had less than $20 left in it, and he was worried about my tone. "Where's Hannah's money?" I asked. He looked away. "Michael." He didn't answer. "Where's our daughter's money?" He leaned against the counter and crossed his arms. That was his work posture. The one he used when he wanted to look calm and powerful. "I used it," he said. 2 words. That was all he gave me. For what? He looked at me then, and there was no real shame in his face. There was a situation. A situation? You're going to make it sound worse than it is. I pushed the paper toward him. "You forged my name and emptied our daughter's college fund." "I don't have to make it sound like anything." He got quiet. Then the truth came out, piece by piece. There was another woman. Her name was Alyssa. She worked in his division. She was younger, newer, and apparently impressed by every expensive dinner, every hotel lobby drink, every smooth speech Michael had spent years perfecting. At first, he tried to describe it like something that had happened to him by accident. It wasn't planned. It got complicated. "You don't understand the pressure I've been under." But the more I pushed, the uglier it became. The money hadn't gone to a medical emergency. It hadn't gone to debt. It hadn't gone to save our home. He had used Hannah's college fund to help secure a luxury car lease for Alyssa. I stared at him, waiting for my brain to make sense of the sentence. A car. My daughter's years of sacrifice had been traded for another woman's car. I asked him if he heard himself. He said, "You're reacting emotionally." I said, "Our daughter couldn't pay her college deposit." He said, "She has options." I remember that line exactly. She has options. As if Hannah's future was flexible. As if the money we had promised her was just sitting there waiting for him to feel important with someone young enough to believe his version of himself. "She can go somewhere cheaper for a year," he said. "Community college isn't the end of the world." I stood so fast the chair scraped behind me. She earned that school. And I paid for this family for years. There it was. Not the father smiling in graduation photos. Not the husband who told people we were a team. The man who believed every dollar in our life belonged to him because his paycheck was bigger. He stepped closer. "I made a mistake," he said, but it didn't sound like an apology. It sounded like a closing argument. "We'll figure it out." "No," I said. "You made a choice." His eyes hardened. "Don't act like you're helpless. That money came from this household. That money was for Hannah." And I said, "We'll figure it out." I looked at him across the kitchen island and understood he wasn't afraid of what he had done. He was only irritated that I had found out before he could control the story. I wanted to scream. I wanted to call Hannah downstairs and make him say it to her face. But then I imagined my daughter standing there, hearing her father explain why someone else's shiny new car mattered more than the life she had worked so hard to build. I couldn't do that to her. Not yet. So I folded the paper. Michael watched me. "What are you doing?" he asked. I slid the document back into my purse. His expression shifted. For the first time that night, he looked uneasy. "Jennifer." I walked toward the stairs. "Don't walk away from me." I stopped, but I didn't turn around. He lowered his voice. "You need to think very carefully before you do something you can't take back." That was when the last warm piece of me toward him went silent. Because even then, he wasn't sorry. He was warning me. I went upstairs, locked the bedroom door, and sat on the edge of the bed with the forged document in my hands. Downstairs, I heard him moving around the kitchen, opening a cabinet, pouring himself a drink, acting like he had survived the worst of it. He thought the fight was over. He thought I would cry, calm down, and eventually protect the family image like I always had. He didn't know I had already stopped thinking like his wife. I was thinking like Hannah's mother. I didn't sleep that night. Michael tried the bedroom door once around midnight. When it didn't open, he knocked lightly. "Jennifer," he said. "Come on. This is ridiculous." I stayed silent. After a minute, He walked away. I sat with my laptop open, searching through accounts, passwords, documents, old emails, and property records. For years, I had ignored half of those things because I thought trust was the same thing as safety. It isn't. By morning, I had a list. Hannah's school deposit had to be paid. Michael could not have access to any money I could legally protect. I needed an attorney before he twisted the story. And my daughter needed enough truth to stop blaming herself, but not so much that it shattered her before orientation. When Michael left for work, he acted almost normal. He stood in the doorway with his coffee and said, "We'll talk tonight when you're calmer." I looked at him and said, "No, we won't." His face tightened. Then he left. The second his car pulled away, I moved. I called the bank first. I asked what could be frozen, what needed investigation, and what documentation I needed. I did not empty accounts out of revenge. I moved funds I had clear legal access to, including money from my separate savings and the portion of our joint emergency money I could document. Then I opened a new account at a credit union Michael had never used. After that, I called my brother, Stephen. He answered on the second ring, cheerful at first. "Hey, what's up?" I tried to speak, but the second I heard his voice, my throat closed. "Jenny?" I hated that nickname most days. That morning, it nearly broke me. I told him the short version. Michael had emptied Hannah's college money. He had forged my signature. There was another woman. For once, my brother didn't interrupt. He didn't crack a joke. He didn't try to fix it too quickly. He just said, "Tell me what you need." I told him about the cabin. Years before I married Michael, my grandmother left me a small desert cabin outside Tucson. It wasn't fancy or huge, but it was mine. Only mine. Michael had suggested more than once that I add his name to it for estate planning, and every time, something in me resisted. That resistance saved us. Stephen knew someone who bought properties quickly. His name was Kenneth. Not a friend I would have called for casual advice, but the kind of person who could move fast if the price was right. I called him before noon. "I know this is sudden," I said, "but I need to sell the cabin quickly." "How quickly?" "Days, if possible." "Is the title clean?" "Yes." "Is this a divorce situation?" I closed my eyes. "It's a protect my daughter situation." He understood enough not to ask more. The offer was lower than I wanted. Any other time, I would have waited, listed it properly, and negotiated. But I didn't need perfect. I needed Hannah's university portal to say paid. While that moved, I called a family law attorney named Amanda. Stephen recommended her, and when I told her what happened, she didn't soften her words. "Do not threaten him," she said. "Do not post anything online. Do not send angry texts. Keep every document. Screenshot everything. Write down dates while they're fresh. And keep your daughter away from the conflict as much as possible." That advice saved me from making emotional mistakes. By late afternoon, I picked Hannah up from school. She got in the car and immediately knew something was wrong. "Mom?" I couldn't lie to her completely. She was 17, not 5. And she had been the one humiliated by the declined payment. So I told her enough. I told her there had been a serious problem with the account. I told her her father had taken money he should not have touched. I told her I was handling it. Her face went pale. "Is college gone?" Those 3 words almost destroyed me. I pulled into a quiet corner of the parking lot and turned toward her. "No," I said. "Listen to me. College is not gone. But the money. I will fix it." "How?" "I don't know every step yet, but I will. You did not do all that work for nothing." She stared out the windshield, blinking too fast. "Did Dad do something bad?" I didn't answer right away. That was answer enough. She covered her mouth. I reached for her hand. "You are not responsible for adult choices," I said. "Your job is to keep breathing and let me protect you." That night, we did not sleep at the house. I packed quietly. Clothes. Documents. Hannah's laptop. Her acceptance packet. Her birth certificate. My grandmother's old jewelry box. The bank papers. Megan, my closest friend, helped us find a long-stay hotel where Michael wouldn't think to look first. It wasn't glamorous. 2 beds, a small kitchenette, beige walls, and a view of the parking lot. But when I locked the door behind us, I felt safer than I had in my own home. Hannah sat on the bed hugging a pillow. "Is he going to be mad?" "Yes," I said. "But that does not mean he is right." The cabin sale moved faster than I expected. Kenneth kept his word. The paperwork was rushed, reviewed, signed, and wired. When the money landed, I opened Hannah's university portal with her beside me. My hand shook as I clicked through the balance. Enrollment deposit. Housing deposit. First semester tuition. Meal plan. Fees. I paid what needed to be paid and set the rest aside for the next bills. I didn't solve every future problem in one click, but I bought Hannah something more valuable than money. Time. When the confirmation page appeared, Hannah stared at it. Balance due, $0 for the current term. She started crying without making a sound. I pulled her into me. You're going, I whispered. She held on to me like she was little again. That night, Michael found out I was not waiting at home. He didn't call at first. He texted. Where are you? Then. Stop this. Then. You're being unreasonable. Then. We need to talk before this gets out of control. I didn't answer. At 8:37 p.m., my phone started ringing. Again and again. I let it go to voicemail. Then the messages changed. His cards weren't working. A charge at a high-end steakhouse had been declined. Not because I had stolen anything, but because accounts connected to the disputed withdrawal had been flagged for review. I had also removed myself from shared lines where I could and reported the forged authorization through the proper channels. Michael left one voicemail. His voice was low and furious. You embarrass me tonight. You have no idea what you're doing. I stood in the small hotel bathroom, listening to it twice. Then I saved a copy for Amanda and walked back out to my daughter. She was eating takeout noodles on the bed with a blanket around her shoulders, watching a show she wasn't really paying attention to. Was that Dad? She asked. Yes. Is he sorry? I sat beside her. Not yet. The first few days after leaving felt strangely quiet. Not peaceful. Quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after a crash, when everything is still smoking and your body hasn't decided where the pain is yet. Michael texted constantly. At first, he was angry. You can't just disappear with my daughter. Then he was practical. We need to coordinate. Then apologetic. I handled this badly. Then dramatic. You're destroying everything over one mistake. Amanda told me not to engage unless it involved Hannah's immediate needs. So I didn't. Every message went into a folder. Every voicemail was saved. Every email was forwarded. Michael hated silence because silence gave him nothing to control. By Monday, his tone changed. That was when I knew someone had explained the situation to him in words he finally understood. Forgery. Bank investigation. Workplace conduct. Divorce court. Public record. Consequences. Michael had spent years walking through life like the rules were obstacles for other people. He was polished, charming, persuasive. He could make a selfish decision sound like strategy. He could make a lie sound like leadership. But a forged signature on a bank document was not something he could charm away. Amanda's office was calm in a way that made me nervous. Soft lighting. Clean desk. No emotional clutter. She looked through everything I brought her. The bank authorization, account history, text messages, copies of the university payment confirmations, the cabin sale documents, and Michael's voicemails. She didn't gasp. She didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. She just organized the facts. This is strong, she said. I nodded, but my stomach twisted. Strong meant real. Strong meant there was no pretending this was just a marriage falling apart. Amanda explained that the forged signature could become a serious legal issue. She also said Michael's relationship with Alyssa could create problems at work because of their connection inside the company. Do we report everything now? I asked. We move carefully, she said. You want accountability, not chaos. I held on to that sentence. Accountability, not chaos. Because I was angry enough for chaos. I was angry enough to send everything to everyone and let the whole thing explode before breakfast. But I kept thinking about Hannah. If I turned my rage into a fire, she would be standing close enough to get burned. So we did it properly. Amanda contacted Michael's attorney. The response came faster than expected. A private settlement proposal. When Amanda called me in to review it, I thought I was prepared. I wasn't. Michael was offering more than I expected. He would give up his claim to the house equity. He would repay the full amount taken from Hannah's fund. He would sign a binding agreement to cover the rest of her undergraduate expenses. He would divide retirement and investments heavily in my favor. He would pay temporary support while the divorce moved forward. On paper, it was the kind of offer people tell you to grab before the other side changes their mind. Amanda let me read the first pages in silence. Then she said, "There's a condition." I looked up. Of course there was. The condition was confidentiality. Not just privacy about the divorce. Not just a promise to avoid social media. Michael wanted me to agree not to contact his company, not to discuss the forged document publicly, and not to take any voluntary action outside the legal process unless required by law. He wanted to buy the right to keep being seen as the man he pretended to be. I sat there with the papers in my lap. Amanda watched me carefully. "As your attorney," she said, "I have to tell you this offer is financially strong." "I know. It secures Hannah's education." "I know. It reduces the risk of a long fight." I looked down at the final page. "But it also asks me to carry the silence." Amanda didn't answer. She didn't have to. That was exactly it. Carry it when people asked what happened. Carry it when Michael shook hands at charity events. Carry it when Hannah eventually understood more and asked why nobody held him accountable. Carry it while he kept his title, reputation, and clean public image after taking money from his own child. I thought about Thomas not meeting my eyes. I thought about Hannah asking, "Is college gone?" I thought about Michael standing in our kitchen saying she had options. Amanda didn't pressure me. She gave me time. Everyone else did not. Somehow, word spread that Michael was offering a settlement. Not the details, not the signature, not the car, not the truth. Just enough for people to hear generous offer and decide I was the problem if I didn't accept it. My mother, Linda, called first. She was crying before I even said hello. "Jennifer, please," she said. "Take the offer. You don't know what he did." "I know enough." "No, Mom. You don't. He made a terrible mistake, but if he loses everything, how does that help Hannah?" I closed my eyes. He already risked Hannah's future. "And you fixed it," she said quickly. "You fixed it. So now think clearly. Don't destroy everyone because you're hurt. Because you're hurt." As if I had caught him flirting and decided to blow up a family out of wounded pride. Then Stephen called. He was gentler, but his message was close to the same. "I'm on your side," he said. "You know I am. But this kind of fight can get ugly. If the offer protects you and Hannah, maybe that matters more than watching him fall." "I don't want to watch him fall. Jenny. I want him to stop being able to walk away clean." There was a long silence. Then he said, "That sounds like the same thing." Maybe it did. Maybe that was what scared me. Because I could feel the anger in me. I could feel how easy it would be to confuse justice with revenge. Then I looked across the hotel room. Hannah was at the small table with her laptop open, trying to complete orientation forms. She had earbuds in, but I could tell she wasn't listening to anything. Her shoulders were too stiff. Her face was too blank. My daughter had learned something about her father that no child should have to learn that way. Money could help her. Silence could not heal her. The final decision did not happen in a courtroom or across a polished conference table. It happened in a hotel laundry room. I was sitting on top of a washing machine, waiting for Hannah's clothes to dry, staring at the settlement papers on my phone. On one side was the easy answer. Take the money. Secure the future. Avoid court. Avoid scandal. Avoid being called bitter, unstable, jealous, dramatic, selfish, cruel. On the other side was the answer that might cost me. Refuse the silence. Let the investigation move. Let Michael's company learn what kind of man had been representing them. Let the court see the forged document. Let people say whatever they wanted. I kept thinking about what my mother said. If he loses everything, how does that help Hannah? It was a fair question. I hated that it was fair. But another question sat beside it. If he can take from his daughter, forge his wife's name, pressure everyone into silence, and keep his life exactly the same, what does that teach Hannah? That men like him are protected? That money matters more than truth? That a family's reputation is worth more than a daughter's pain? The dryer buzzed. I jumped. Then I laughed once, quietly, because my whole life was falling apart and a dryer buzzer had still managed to scare me. I took the clothes out. Folded Hannah's university sweatshirt. Held it in my hands. That was when I knew. The next morning, I walked into Amanda's office and told her I would not sign the settlement with that silence condition. Amanda's face barely changed. "Are you sure?" she asked. "No," I said. "But I'm clear." That was the most honest answer I had. I was not sure I would win everything. I was not sure people would understand. I was not sure Hannah would thank me someday or wish I had taken the quiet money. I was not sure how ugly Michael could get once he realized I was not letting him buy his way out. But I was clear on one thing. I could not sign a paper that turned my daughter's pain into a private transaction. Amanda nodded. Then we counter without the confidentiality clause. And if he refuses? Then we proceed. Proceed. Such a small word for such a large storm. When Michael's side received the response, my phone lit up like someone had opened a gate. His mother, Barbara, sent paragraphs about family loyalty. His brother, Austin, accused me of trying to ruin Michael's life out of spite. Mutual friends I hadn't heard from in months suddenly had opinions about forgiveness. One message said, "Think about Hannah." I stared at that one for a long time. Then I whispered, "I am." Michael called from a blocked number that evening. I almost didn't answer, but Amanda had told me that if I did, I should say little and document everything. So I picked up. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "You rejected it." His voice was different. No smugness. No warmth either. Just disbelief. "I rejected the silence," I said. "You're making a mistake." "I've heard that." "You think this makes you strong?" "No," I said. "I think it makes me done." He exhaled sharply. "You have no idea what you're about to do to this family." That old line. This family. As if he hadn't been the one to break it open. "I didn't forge the signature," I said. "You don't understand how complicated things were. You bought her a car with our daughter's money. It wasn't that simple." "It was exactly that simple." His voice changed, not with sadness, but frustration. "I can still fix this if you stop." There it was again. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "Tell Hannah I will spend the rest of my life making this right." Just stop. Stop telling the truth. Stop making consequences real. Stop forcing him to look at the damage. I hung up. My hands shook afterward, but I didn't cry. Hannah came out of the bathroom brushing her hair. Was that him? Yes. What did he say? I chose my words carefully. "He wants me to make this easier for him." She nodded slowly. "And are you?" I looked at my daughter. 17 years old. Too young to carry this. Old enough to know when adults were lying. "No," I said. "Not anymore." She sat beside me on the bed. For a while, we just listened to the hum of the air conditioner. Then she leaned her head on my shoulder. "I still want him to be my dad," she whispered. That sentence hurt more than anything Michael had said. I wrapped my arm around her. "He is your dad," I said. "You're allowed to love him. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to miss who you thought he was. None of it has to make sense right now." She cried then. Not loud. Just tired. I held her until she stopped. That is the part nobody talks about when they tell you to take the money and move on. They act like betrayal ends when the paperwork starts. It doesn't. It follows you into hotel rooms. Into laundry rooms. Into college forms. Into every ordinary moment where your old life should have been. A week later, Amanda filed the next motions. The bank review continued. Michael's company received notice through proper channels. I didn't post about it. I didn't call his coworkers. I didn't blast him online. I let the documents speak. That was enough. Michael was placed on leave pending review. Alyssa disappeared from social media for a while. His family blamed me for every consequence, as if I had invented the signature, emptied the account, and handed the car keys over myself. My mother eventually stopped calling to beg. Stephen apologized. He said, "I was scared for you." I know. And maybe I was wrong. Maybe we all are a little. Because that is the truth. I am not pretending I became some perfectly calm person overnight. Some mornings, I still wake up furious. Some nights, I wonder if I should have taken the offer and given Hannah a quieter life. Then I remember her face when the payment confirmation came through. I remember the way she whispered, "I'm really going?" I remember the forged signature. And I remember Michael saying she had options. He was right about one thing. She did. She had the option to watch her mother stay silent for money. Or she had the option to watch her mother stand up, imperfectly and painfully, and say no. Hannah left for orientation 3 days ago. We drove to the airport before sunrise. She wore the university sweatshirt I folded in that hotel laundry room. She looked nervous and excited and heartbroken all at once. At the drop-off, she hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "Are you going to be okay?" she asked. I smiled because that was supposed to be my question. "I'm going to figure it out." She pulled back. "Mom?" "Yeah, thank you for not letting him make me feel like I wasn't worth it." I almost broke right there on the curb. But I didn't. I kissed her forehead, watched her walk through the sliding doors, and stood there until I couldn't see her anymore. My marriage is ending. My house may become a battlefield. People who once smiled at me now look away. Michael may lose the career he protected more fiercely than he protected us. And maybe some people will always think I should have taken the money and stayed quiet. Maybe they're right. Maybe I turned down security because I needed accountability too much. Maybe anger guided part of my hand. But when my daughter called me crying over a rejected college deposit, I learned something I will never forget. A future can disappear in one afternoon. So can trust. So can fear. And when my husband tried to buy my silence with the same confidence he used to take from our child, I finally understood that peace bought with a lie is not peace. It is just another cage. Now I'm standing outside the life I used to have, holding the truth in both hands, waiting to see what it costs me. And I still don't know if that makes me brave, reckless, or something in between.